You are listening to The Michael Lodge Show. Wealth, business, and taxes. Oh, yeah, and some politics. Let's get started.
Gosh, today was one of those days that it was hard to get up, losing my voice, and I don't know why. I feel fine, but for some reason I'm losing my voice, and I don't know what the issues are with me. So I'm going to boil it down to old age. By the way, yesterday I made a big deal about going out and getting empanadas. The place I was going to go was shut down, dead as a doornail. It was a surviving business until COVID came along, and then it literally killed it. It was gone. Bye-bye, hasta la vista. So now I'm still on the hunt for good food. It makes me upset. You know, when you go to a place, you're craving this. You really wanted empanadas because they're so good for breakfast with coffee, I tell you. And then when you get there and you find out that it has been closed because of COVID and it will never reopen again. The most stupidest thing that we've done to businesses is shut them down and let them die. It's not right. And what the government wants to do even more is pass a spending bill, or pass a COVID bill, as they call it, that is absolutely nothing. 1% of that $1.9 trillion, 1%, less than 1%, goes to COVID. The rest of it goes to pork stuff that Nancy Pelosi has put in there. 1% goes to COVID. They still have almost $1 billion sitting there from last time in the PPP loans. I don't know what they're doing. Literally, we are spending money just for political payback from Nancy Pelosi and Schumer. That is disgusting. I want to discuss one thing on that thing that they're trying to push through Congress. That's a bunch of bull. And it's that $15 minimum wage hike. Now, see, the problem with politicians is they want to make it sound as if it's something really great that's coming along. I even heard one congressman said, listen, if a business can't pay that $15, he doesn't want it to be in business. That's the mentality of what's going on in Congress. If you can't pay that $15, then you shouldn't be in business. Well, let me tell you, members of Congress who really want to understand how this $15 affects small business. Not just affects those that are getting the $15, but it affects those that are having to pay it. That $15 is not $15. Because once you have to add on higher workers' comp costs, because that goes up. Remember, workers' comp is paid on a dollar amount per every $100 that an individual earns. Okay, so every $100 that goes up on an employee, so does workers' comp expenses for the employer. State taxes go up. Federal taxes go up. Everything goes up. State disability expenses in states where they've got state disability goes up. So by the time you add everything into it, that $15 has now turned into $18 to the employer that he's got to come up with. That $15, by the way, becomes lower to the individual receiving it because of all of the taxes that he has to or she has to pay on it. So right now you're trying to push through a bill. This is the way Congress is so stupid. I tell you, I don't trust them on anything that they do. Is that they're trying to push through a bill at a time where small businesses are trying to survive. They're trying to keep going. They cannot afford any more higher expenses, but yet Congress thinks they should. You see, they see revenue dollars in this, because when the $15, when minimum wage goes up, so does the tax coffers. The amount of money that goes into the IRS, into the state, local governments, it goes up. So this isn't to help the American people. This is to help the federal government to bring in more tax revenue. Don't ever think that it's anything more to help the American people, because it's not. It does not help small business because it drains them of even added costs to their operations. It reduces the amount that they think they're going to get $15 an hour, but no, they don't, because of all the taxes and everything else that gets deducted. Small businesses cannot afford an increase in minimum wage, especially in the retail sector. They just can't do it. Now, if you're going to talk about Amazon, and you're going to talk about all these big corporations, they can do it themselves. If they want to pay their employees a higher wage, that's up to them. They know what their budgets are. They know what they can afford. Small businesses are right on a razor-thin profit margin, if they've got any at all. So when I see this happening in this $1.9 trillion, and they're sticking all this stuff through that has nothing to do with COVID, then we as Americans have got to stand up to these politicians and say, hey, enough is enough. That $1.9 trillion is not needed. A much less amount needs to be done. A much less amount. You've still got $1 trillion sitting over there. You are trying to add more and more junk stuff into a bill that has nothing to do with COVID or the survivability of small business or the helping of small business. It has nothing to do with it. It has only to do with payback for all of these states who made really bad decisions in how they operate. And you've got to admit that these states have done a really bad job. New York, Chicago, Illinois, California especially, the leader of the pack. And then part of that $1.9 trillion is for a railroad system in California. Now, what does that have to do? What does that have to do with COVID? Not a damn thing. And we sit here as Americans thinking, and are led to believe by Nancy Pelosi, who is a con artist of the politics in Congress, that this $1.9 trillion is going to help schools. No, it does not help schools. It does not help anybody except her paybacks. State of California should not be getting one single dime from the federal government for mismanaging the way that they have handled their state. Forget that. We as Americans are going to pay that because Nancy Pelosi wants to put that into her bill. So that $1.9 trillion, that's what that's all about, is nothing but nonsense, nothing about COVID. If only 1% is of that 1.9 billion or trillion, is going to cover COVID, that's not nothing. Why are we even doing it? Because it's politics, and politics is a corrupt game. And Nancy Pelosi is the leader of that corrupt nation. And Chuck Schumer, is a leader of the Senate corruptness. Democrats have got to understand that we Americans clearly see what they're trying to do, and we do not agree with it. So if you want to do anything for this American people, cut it in half. And I want to know line by line what that money is being spent for. I do not accept the $1.9 trillion that they're trying to spend because they do not want to tell us exactly what's in it. I'm not going to believe you, Nancy, again. Well, we've got to pass the bill so that we understand the bill, so we know what's in it. Forget it. I want you to tell the American people right now, line by line, what makes up that $1.9 trillion. I'm demanding it. I want you to give me a spreadsheet. Give me an Excel spreadsheet, line by line, of what that money is going for. Listen, if you want to do something for this company, for this country, you had better start acting with some common sense and being honest with the American people. Because so far, Nancy Pelosi, you are not honest with the American people. Chuck Schumer, you are not honest with the American people. AOC, you are nothing. You are nothing. Because you don't see what is needed for the American people. Instead, you want pork on pork on pork on pork. AOC, get off that $15 an hour business, because that is going to cost American jobs. It's going to cost American businesses, because we are not able to survive under higher costs. We're not even able to survive at the moment because governments have us tied into all of the phony baloney stuff on COVID. I tell you, the American people have got to start standing up to these politicians and say, hey, listen, you work for me. I don't work for you. You work for me, and you'd better start listening to what the American people say. 1.9 trillion, forget it. 1.9 trillion, stupid. 1.9 trillion, idiots who wrote that. So the American people have got to stand up and say no to this. 1.9 trillion is not the amount of money we should be spending on everything else except COVID. So I want you to pull everything out of there and just leave COVID. That is it. COVID. I don't want to hear about a train in California. I don't want to hear about funding a local government because they can't pay their bills. I don't want to hear anything about that because that has nothing to do with COVID. I want to hear just about COVID, putting shots in people's arms, getting them medical care. I want to see that. I want to see that. I want to hear it. And you'd better provide a spreadsheet that tells me exactly what's in that 1.9 trillion. Because so far, you're lying to me, Nancy. You're lying to me, Chuck. You're lying to me, Congress. In the Senate, you are lying to me. So stop it. Because you're spending American people's dollars, the taxes that they work hard for. Those taxes are being wasted on that $1.9 trillion. It's not needed. There are even Democrats that are saying it's not needed. This $1.9 trillion is not needed. Republicans are saying it's not needed. Economists are saying it's not needed. 1.9 trillion is way too much money, and you're looking like idiots and fools by pushing an agenda that is bad for the American people and bad for government. But oh, it's so sweet for Democrats who've got to pay people back. This is really stupid, you guys. I want you to get on the phone today or emails or whatever and say, vote no on the 1.9 trillion. You don't want that 1.9 trillion. If you're going to spend money on COVID, I want to know exactly what it is that you're spending money on COVID. I want to know what that is. And if there's anything else in there, toss it out because it's nonsense. It's stupid. It's bull. This 1.9 trillion is bull. And we have got to stop it. And Biden is sitting there wanting this 1.9 trillion. Why? Because he can pay back all of his political cronies in his corrupt political world. 1.9 trillion is corrupt. It's a corrupted bill. It's a nonsense bill. Has nothing to do. 1% only covers COVID. I want to know I want to know what's in that 1%. I want to know. So listen, Nancy, you better start doing your job. If you're protecting people from COVID, that 1.9 trillion had better be all for COVID, because it's not, because you're lying to us. The $15 minimum wage increase you want, nothing to do with COVID. Nothing. Train station, nothing to do with COVID. Train system, nothing to do with COVID. Money to send back to cities that need help, nothing to do with COVID. In fact, you haven't even thought it through. You've just let Congress people put through bills to protect their own districts. So 1.9 trillion. You write your members of Congress and the Senate today and say, pull that bill. Pull it. Because you're not addressing the issues of COVID and you're not attacking COVID in the right way. You're wasting the taxpayers' money. Listen, you and I, we work hard for that. We pay into that system every single month, every single week, every single day. When you go to the gas pump, you're paying a federal gas pump every single day. And that money isn't even going for roads. It's being wasted. It's being sucked out. That's how government works in Washington, D.C. They take this money when they can get it and they suck it and they spend it, but they never get anything done for the American people. Our highways are still a mess. Our roads are still a mess. Our infrastructure is still a mess. Nothing is spent on that. So if you're going to take 1.9 trillion, take a trillion out of that. Take $1 trillion out. Take $1.5 trillion out. Move it over to infrastructure. But none of this political payback stuff, because it looks like the American people are stupid. And we are stupid because we let the government and members of Congress in the Senate act stupid. Hold them accountable. Just remember that 1.9 trillion goes into our debt, and each of us are responsible for a portion of that debt. Now, you never think about that, but it's true. As the debt goes up, as the spending goes up, so does our own responsibility of that debt go up. So listen, Americans, my friends out there who listen to me on a daily basis, I ask you, please contact your members of Congress and the Senate and tell them no on the 1.9 trillion. It can't be done. Either reduce it, cut it by 1.5, whatever you have to do, but just identify what is there for COVID. That's it. And you Democrats, if you are going to vote for this, you're going to be voted out of office, because I'm telling you, this is not right for America. It's overspending. You're overspending. You're wasting American tax dollars. So we are holding you responsible for that. So you better start trimming that down. If you want a bill for COVID, then you had better present a bill just for COVID. Nothing else. Just for COVID. What are the needs out there? What are the hospital needs? What are the community needs? What are the clinic needs? The local cities that serve the underprivileged? Have you identified the needs of our communities on COVID? And I'm guarantee you that you haven't. You don't know what the hospitals have to go through when they have to shut down a portion of the hospital just to service COVID patients. You haven't even come into that situation. By the way, that $35,000 or whatever it is that you pay per patient when they have COVID, you better start auditing some of these hospitals, because some of these hospitals have over-reported on COVID patients that are not COVID patients. I know, because I've talked to them. I've talked to these patients who went in as a stroke victim and came out as COVID, and no one even ran a freaking test to tell if they were COVID infected or not. Not one. What happened to all the flu season? We don't even hear any flu numbers, because everything's getting rolled right into COVID. We as Americans, we've got to take responsibility. And we're putting these people into office that are wasting the American tax dollar. That you and I, we go to work every single day, and some of us are not even working, but are still getting taxed. And it goes into the federal government, goes into the state government, and the money's wasted. So we as Americans have got to hold these individuals accountable who are voting for these nonsense votes. This $1.9 trillion vote is a nonsense vote, and it should not even be voted on. 1% of that $1.9 trillion is going to COVID. And listen, that is stupid. If you think I'm going to pay for everybody else's problems, I'm not going to do it. Maybe it's time that American people stop paying taxes because our money is being wasted. It's not accounted for. It's being thrown away on states and cities who literally was so stupid in the way that they handled COVID, and they shut down businesses. In fact, a lot of businesses are not sure if they even want this PPP. A lot of them are saying to me, at least, let me open up my business. I'll tell you what the economy is all about. Just let me open it up. If you let me work freely and let me practice all of the social distancing and everything else in my business, I can run my business perfectly well without government interfering. I can create an economy because I'm a business person. I can create that economy, not a PPP. If you're throwing money at a short-term thing, and if you keep shutting down states and counties and cities and everything else, you are just wasting money. Just let the businesses open. They know how to create an economy. They know how to create an upward movement. Government is creating a downward movement. Just like yesterday, I went to get empanadas and the store was shut because of COVID. It was dead. All of the furniture and everything was moved out. The signs were still up and everything, but everything else was gone. It was dead. It was gone. Because of COVID mismanagement by cities. Palm Beach is still in that situation. Palm Beach has the most liberal government here, and they're still destroying companies, still destroying small business. The rest of the state is open and free and doing what they want, but here in Palm Beach we've got stupid politicians that keep doing stupid things. Listen, we have a lot of power with our vote, and it's time that you and I start showing these politicians that what they are doing, what they're spending our money on is wrong, what their political beliefs are wrong, and we're going to get rid of them in this next vote. We have 2022. Just remember that we have that power. We are the voter. We are the one that put them in power. So today, I have to go out and look for empanadas again. And in fact, you know what? I may have to drive all the way down to Miami. I'll do it maybe tomorrow. Maybe just take a few hours off and drive down to Miami, get some nice Cuban food, which is so good. I tell you, it's so good. Sandwiches are good. The soups are good. Everything's good. The chicken is good. Everything is good. So tomorrow I may go down and buy me some empanadas and maybe have just a little bit extra. A nice meal. Gotta get away. Very busy in this office. So I'm gonna hold weekends for my time to just relax, eat some good food, meet some new friends, pray. Listen, I'm sorry I'm frustrated with this 1.9 trillion, but it really does bug me. It bugs me so much, and I've said so much about it. I've said so much about the $15 an hour wage hike. And I'm hoping that you are listening to me. I'm hoping that you are contacting your members of Congress and the Senate and saying, no, stop it. Stop wasting my money. Enough is enough. Listen, if you have a question or a comment and you want to send it to me, send me a text at 818-252-5682. Again, that's 818-252-5682. If you want to send me an email, if you got a business question or a concern, if you want to ask me it, send me an email or a text, but send me an email at info@lodge-co.com. If you like my podcast and the content that I produce for you, help me out by going to www.buymeacoffee.com/Michael Lodge, Lodge, all one word. Listen, everybody go out and have a great Friday. I'm happy that today's here. Still working hard, still got a desk full of stuff to do. But I'm getting it done. I'm getting it done. And working with people and helping people. That's what I like to do. Everybody, go out and do something good. But remember, you have a responsibility of holding politicians accountable. So you today have got to get on your email system and start sending them emails and say no to the 1.9 trillion. This is Mike Lodge. I'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye. This podcast has been produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content. Hi, this is Mike Lodge of The Michael Lodge Show. Join me on iHeartRadio and other podcast stations as we talk about wealth, business, and taxes. Oh, and some politics. Join me every day on the podcast that keeps focused on business.